What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to some more Bible reading. Let's just hop right into it. So here we go. Genesis chapter 43. So previously, Joseph was in Egypt. Through various circumstances, got himself into a significantly powerful position, basically just below Pharaoh, who is the ruler of Egypt, in case you didn't know what that meant. And then there was there was a plentiful harvest, but then there was famine. And because of Pharaoh's dream and Joseph's ability to interpret it, there was still plenty of leftover crops in Egypt that could help get them through the famine. But the famine wasn't just in Egypt, it was also in other areas. Nearby, at least. So, because it stretched at least all the way up to Canaan, Joseph's family, meaning Jacob and the rest of his sons, also were struggling to get food. Therefore, they had to get food from Egypt. So Joseph's brothers came down, most of them. And Joseph, for whatever reason, spoke with them a bit harshly, accused them of being spies, told them they got to go back and get Benjamin, their youngest brother, for him to actually believe that they're not spies, since they mentioned that there was the youngest brother still at home. So that's basically where we leave things off. Joseph has taken one of his brothers, Simeon, as sort of a hostage until the others could go back and get Benjamin to come with them. But of course, Jacob does not want Benjamin to go because he's afraid of what fate will await Benjamin, either along the way or while they're in Egypt or whatever. Because, yeah. Anyway, Benjamin was the youngest, and so, he would be the most likely to not be able to handle himself, I guess. Anyway, okay. So now that I've, taken a couple of minutes to explain how we got to this point, let's jump into chapter 43 here, starting with verse 1. But the famine continued to ravage the land of Canaan. When the grain they had brought from Egypt was almost gone, Jacob said to his sons, "Go back and buy us a little more food." But Judah said, "The man was serious when he warned us, 'You won't see my face again unless your brother is with you.' If you send Benjamin with us, we will go down and buy more food. But if you don't let Benjamin go, we won't go either. Remember, the man said, 'You won't see my face again unless your brother is with you.'" "Why were you so cruel to me?" Jacob moaned. "Why did you tell him you had another brother?" Well, I mean, I guess, in that situation, they were trying to give Joseph more information, not realizing that he was Joseph and thus their brother. They were trying to give him more information on, what actually, on who they were and where they came from, and that they had no bad motives. And that they definitely weren't spies. So, I mean, I assume that was kind of why. But in any case, so there's a bit of an argument over whether or not they're actually going to go get the food, and whether or not Benjamin will go with them, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, as to why they told Joseph about having another brother, Verse 7 seems to have an answer. The man kept asking us questions about our family, they replied. He asked, "Is your father still alive? Do you have another brother?" So we answered his questions. How could we know he would say, "Bring your brother down here"? Judah said to his father, "Send the boy with me, and we will be on our way. Otherwise, we will all die of starvation, and not only we, but you and our little ones. I personally guarantee his safety. You may hold me responsible if I don't bring him back to you. Then let me bear the blame forever. If we hadn't wasted all this time, we could have gone and returned twice by now." I find it interesting that Judah is the one that's, doing all this convincing, because wasn't Judah also the one that was the primary instigator of selling Joseph off? But in any case, I mean, Judah has his own family at this point, as we read in a previous chapter. And so, maybe he's kind of softened up a bit. But anyway, I find it interesting, almost like if he's the one who's going to go so far as to be responsible, then man, they must be desperate. But anyway, so then we get to verse 11. So their father Jacob finally said to them, "If it can't be avoided, then at least do this. Pack your bags with the best products of this land. Take them down to the man as gifts: balm, honey, gum, aromatic resin, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Also take double the money that was put back in your sacks, as it was probably someone's mistake. Then take your brother and go back to the man. May God Almighty give you mercy as you go before the man, so that he will release Simeon and let Benjamin return. But if I must lose my children, so be it." Desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess. Also realizing footnote at God Almighty, just saying that the Hebrew is El Shaddai. The previous note was in verse 6, because the original Hebrew says Israel instead of Jacob. Again, used interchangeably a lot. Sometimes just depending on the translation of the Bible that you're using. So anyway, Jacob basically tells them, all right, fine. Go ahead if you must. But we're going to take all the best things we can to try to convince this general who you spoke to that we have good intentions, and we'll give all this stuff as A, an offering of goodwill, and B, just, extra bartering material almost for the food, I guess. I mean, that's me reading into it a bit, but that would be kind of a logical way of looking at it. Anyway, verse 15. So the men packed Jacob's gifts and doubled the money and headed off with Benjamin. They finally arrived in Egypt and presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the manager of his household, "These men will eat with me this noon. Take them inside the palace. Then go slaughter an animal and prepare a big feast." So the man did as Joseph told him and took them into Joseph's palace. The brothers were terrified when they saw that they were being taken into Joseph's house. "It's because of the money someone put in our sacks last time we were here," they said. "He plans to pretend that we stole it. Then he will seize us, make us slaves, and take our donkeys." I mean, somewhat reasonable assumption, I guess. But, also, why add the whole take our donkeys thing? Why is that important? I don't know. Anyway. Also, these men will eat with me this noon. Not the way that that's typically heard, but okay, so lunch feast, I guess. Um, but long story short, they went back, found Joseph again. Doesn't really say what the timing of it was in between. So now Joseph is saying to, prepare a feast. Um, they seem to think he's trying to trick them and lure them into a false sense of security, but he's actually going to take their stuff. But he might be thinking, okay, they've kept their word. I'm not really going to be able to keep up the act much longer. And so he's actually going to, start treating them nicely. Perchance. I don't know. Anyway. So, on to verse 19. The brothers approached the manager of Joseph's household and spoke to him at the entrance to the palace. Sir, they said, we came to Egypt once before to buy food. But as we were returning home, we stopped for the night and opened our sacks. Then we discovered that each man's money, the exact amount paid, was in the top of his sack. Here it is. We have brought it back with us. We also have additional money to buy more food. We have no idea who put our money in our sacks. Okay, so they were saying this to Joseph's household manager, not to Joseph himself. Maybe thinking that, okay, maybe we shouldn't talk to this general guy directly. He might just get angry at us for trying to make an excuse. So let's try talking to somebody else who seems to be kind of important around here. See what he has to say. But anyway, they essentially told him that they plan on repaying what should have been paid the first time, and that they have more money for the current round of food. But let's see what happens. Verse 23. Relax, don't be afraid, the household manager told them. Your God, the God of your father, must have put this treasure into your sacks. I know I received your payment. Then he released Simeon and brought him out to them. The manager then led the men into Joseph's palace. He gave them water to wash their feet and provided food for their donkeys. They were told they would be eating there, so they prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon. When Joseph came home, they gave him the gifts they had brought him, then bowed low to the ground before him. After greeting them, he asked, How is your father, the old man you spoke about? Is he still alive? Yes, they replied. Our father, your servant, is alive and well. And they bowed low again. Okay, so household manager tells them he received his payment for the previous food, which I would imagine would put the brothers at ease a bit, but also kind of leave them scratching their heads as to, like, how did this happen? But, I mean, God things, sometimes you never really know. Anyway. And so then, they're getting ready for a feast. Now that they've been informed of that, they're presenting the gifts that they have to Joseph. Whether this was the money exactly or, more so the other things. It might have been the other things just to kind of have that show of goodwill on top of being willing to pay for the food that they want to take back home with them. So anyway, he asks about their father, who is also his father. They say he's good. And at this point, they're bowing down. I seem to recall that Joseph had a dream about this kind of stuff. He also had one that involved his parents, along with the brothers bowing before him. Maybe that'll come up a bit later. But he also had one that seemed like it was more so going to just be the brothers bowing before him. Anyway, verse 29. Then Joseph looked at his brother Benjamin, the son of his own mother. "Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about?" Joseph asked. "May God be gracious to you, my son." Then Joseph hurried from the room because he was overcome with emotion for his brother. He went into his private room where he broke down and wept. After washing his face, he came back out, keeping himself under control. Then he ordered, "Bring out the food." So, I guess, there would have been a bit of an extra connection between Joseph and Benjamin because they were fully brothers, same father and mother. The rest of Joseph's brothers, I think, were technically only like half brothers. But, all this time putting up an act while still probably in some way being happy to see and hear that his family is alive and that they're doing okay, I gotta imagine that, him being overcome with emotion was completely understandable under the circumstances, but he's still trying to hide it at this point. So anyway, now it seems the feast is on. Verse 32. The waiters served Joseph at his own table, and his brothers were served at a separate table. The Egyptians who ate with Joseph sat at their own table, because Egyptians despise Hebrews and refuse to eat with them. Joseph told each of his brothers where to sit, and to their amazement, he seated them according to age, from oldest to youngest. And Joseph filled their plates with food from his own table, giving Benjamin 5 times as much as he gave to the others. So they feasted and drank freely with him. So, I wonder if this was meant as a bit of a hint to the brothers that Joseph knows more than he's letting on. Because okay, yes, there are some slight chances that he would have been able to seat them in order of age, but completely at random, the odds would have been, I guess, 11 factorial, but, he was probably able to see them and what they looked like, and maybe be able to guesstimate, so I don't think the chances were quite that slim that he would have been able to do it at random, but in any case, it may have been a subtle nod to the fact that he did actually know them more than he let on. Hopefully, in his case, subtle enough that they still don't quite get the connection. But he also gave Benjamin 5 times as much as the others. So that would indicate that he liked Benjamin more than the rest of them, I guess. Or maybe they're thinking, he's just trying to treat the youngest one extra well. Or something. I don't know. But a final note that I'll mention. The Egyptians despising Hebrews and refusing to eat with them. I mean, that's... I guess in a way you could say that that's a form of racism. But, I mean, it was probably pretty common, even back in those times, that people of different areas weren't really very trusting, or, you know, that they didn't necessarily get along with certain other people around them, especially with how much fighting often happened between various, you know, kingdoms and people groups and things like that. I mean, it may not have been too dissimilar from, you know, the types of warring that we have going on in the Middle East these days. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, I guess that about wraps up my thoughts on this video. Okay, well, that's going to do it for now. As always, like, share, subscribe, click the bell, all that good stuff. Look down in the description for info on other social media pages, how to find and follow and interact and all that good stuff. And leave comments down below with any thoughts that you have. So yeah, that's going to do it for this one. I hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I will see you for the next video. But until then, stay cool, people.